Okay, and then this one. All right, let's see if we can get you sorted. So you've been on a bit of a break, right? And can come back somewhat recently.
Yeah, so I've played into the classic seasonal MapleStory player, come back for events and hyperburning, make a ton of progress, play for about a month after the hyperburn, and then fall off.
Mm-hmm.
This shade I'm playing, I stuck to for a while longer, but then life took me away.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so
Okay, but now you have a bit more time, or that's like less stressful.
it's actually the opposite. I'm on a pretty strict like 1 to 3 hours a day, but this game actually fits that for me, where I can get on, do some dailies, grind for an hour. It's easy to just like do a coupon and log off versus other games where I just get sucked in forever.
Like solo versus multiplayer, or just like things where campaigns build forever and then it's hard to restrict your playtime kind of thing more.
Yeah, since grinding's mostly solo, I'm not hurting anyone to just log off, you know?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, as long as you don't like set yourself up for like a lot of boss parties and stuff like that, right? That's when it starts getting locked in more. That's when it gets trickier to, if you're trying to progress in terms of gear and stuff past a certain point. You probably want to party versus solo. So now you're playing mostly solo, and you want to keep doing that, or?
I have been playing almost exclusively solo. I've joined like 3 random public parties for like normal stuff, but I do every boss I've killed solo as well. So, but that's pretty hard barrier for progression for me, because I obviously want to be in
time.
hard parties and stuff as well to get progressing.
So what's like the hardest stuff you've done? You would say like the hardest stuff you've done solo, and what's the hardest stuff you've done in a party so far?
Normal lucid probably.
For solo or for party?
Both.
Okay.
I've never killed Will.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm kind of boomer hands, so if I can't kill it in like a few bursts, I usually start running into the dying out problem. Like, I think I technically could min cut hard Lotus and stuff where I'm at, but I'm not sure because I'm not that good.
Yeah, you're not sure if like the regular other people's stat requirements go for you as well, because you know that you might not be playing as well as them, or
right. Yeah. So
yeah,
watching the professionals play, and they do stuff like way earlier than I can.
Yeah. Yeah, I have that when I watch like Kobe stuff, and I'm like, oh, that seems reasonable. And then I try, and I was like, that wasn't reasonable at all.
Yeah, exactly.
I think the soloing Black Mage is like way too early. Yeah, that kind of stuff, understandable. And shade, right? Are you specifically looking at other shades, or just like other classes altogether?
No, just other classes altogether. I know that shade's on the weak side. I just enjoy the class a lot, so
yeah, you do have a lot of survivability, right? So with your movement and with your survivability, you can take some punches that might kill other characters. It gives you a bit more of a cushion if you're not as fast to respond, or you kind of get stuck in certain things, right?
Yeah, yep. And once I've gotten like warmed up with the backstepping and the foxtrotting, the mobility feels really nice. The movement to move around stuff.
Okay. Yeah, stat. If I'm just looking at like your stat window and everything, there's definitely some metrics where you look at like, yeah, that could be, like starting for hard lucid, but yeah, you'd have to have some of the power there as well, or like if you have a full party, then that makes it a lot easier. You have a whole bunch of, these days you got a whole bunch of origin skills, right? And that definitely takes down bosses in a different way than in the past, where if you had the same amount of power, you'd have to fight the boss very differently. Shorter binds, not as many iframes, that kind of stuff. But survivability-wise, you still find yourself struggling as well. Is it just lack of practice, or you think it's just purely bad reaction speed?
It's a little of both. So like, uh, Lucid, for example, I get P1 wrecks me, and then I'm fine if I can make it through P1. Just because golems dropping, I'm not good at predicting where they're gonna fall or whatever, watching out for that. And
Sure.
so I
It
end
is
up
hard
inside of one, and then
yeah, exactly. They can look like they're on your left, but then they're technically on your right, kind of thing. And even the thing that's a bug now that should be getting fixed soon, I think in Dreamer, is also that sometimes even if they fall on the right side of you and you're dodging them correctly, it'll still stop your movement even though you're moving the right way. So you'll think you're moving the wrong way and then move actually into it and then die from that hit. That initial like stopping your movement just because there's a golem nearby you, that's gonna get fixed as well. So that should make that a little bit cleaner. What I find is for P2, for P1, I usually just go like straight, like exactly in the middle, which puts you a little bit more in danger for sickles. But golems have a little bit of a time in between usually. But I find if you're standing like right in the middle, there's very, very, very few golems that ever really spawn like on top of you. But yeah, of course, as with a lot of things, damage is the best mechanic. So if you can blow out a P1 super quickly, even if you die once or twice, you're in no danger whatsoever, right, to finish out the entire boss fight. But the main thing is the golems, like the dragons. Is that?
No, I dragons and up jumping with blink, hovering to get out of the way. I'm pretty solid at that. I'm decent at watching her just play everything full transparent so I can see what she's doing. And I'm decent at watching that. It's just honestly, like I'll move out of the way of a sickle and then a golem drops on my head, and I'm dead. And then getting back in is annoying.
Yeah. Well, getting back in, because of you have like the resistance link, right? You have longer invincibility that allows you to get to her faster.
I have it available. I don't think I've equipped it before.
For most bossing, I just like it for the utility, because even if you let's say that you start bursting but you die, if you respawn and a bunch of the buttons still, that means that for the next like 6 to 7 seconds, you can basically just freely use the rest of your burst up, so you don't lose the whole thing. And you also don't have to worry about dying because of that skill. So, especially if you're still practicing the boss and you're still not sure, you might be potentially dying out. Even because if you have 9 reses and every res, instead of like a second of invincibility, you have 8, that means you have a whole minute of invincibility in an entire run extra, right? So that gives you more time to reposition and to finish off your burst. With only like 1/12 of your link skills, which is only one smaller part of your well, it's a significant part, but it's like a 1/12 of a part to sacrifice for all of that extra utility. So I think for starting out, until you feel more comfortable with the boss, is definitely something I would do.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense.
Later, once the boss gets really fast, you can get to the point where switching it for damage makes the boss even faster, because then you get an extra damage skill. And then even if you die once or twice, you know that the whole boss run is going to be like, 6 or 7 minutes. So you can't like physically die that many times. You're just going to be like just wailing on the boss and wailing on the boss. And for the sickles, can you foxtrot through those? That counts as a teleport?
I think so. Yeah, I think foxtrot you can, and then backstep has like 3 spots in it where it's teleport and 2 spots where it's dashing, and it's
so that's
weird
riskier.
one.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Well, like Foxtrot is the one that you could technically use in Lotus P1, but it teleports you like into the center of the laser or something, right? So it just like insta kills you. So you can't use that one to go through the laser. Yeah, okay.
But you can backstep as long as you're standing on the right pixels on.
If you're like really close to the laser, I guess.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, the same thing was like the Pathfinder teleport was the same. Like there was a hitbox in the middle, and there were like 2 teleport spots on the side. So if you're like just the perfect distance away, or you were really close to it, you'd be good. But if it was like hit in the middle, then you would die. But now they made it like a full-on teleport. I hope to do the same for the Shade skill. Just make it on a full-on teleport. Well, I guess if Foxtrot is already a teleport, and then they want the other one to be like a dash. But yeah, I guess it makes sense to not have two full-on teleports on a pirate.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, some of it is practice, some of it is reaction speed, but that goes together really strongly. Because if you're watching, well, like you say, if you're watching the pros boss, a lot of times it feels like they don't run into as many bad situations as you, and that's because of experience. They can already, they're not like actively doing calculations like, okay, there's like 20% chance that this skill happens, there's like 16% chance that that skill happens, but it's more like because of experience. You just know, you've had many situations where you put yourself in a position and then afterwards you're like, oh, this was a bad call because now I'm even more fucked than I was before. And what you start doing without even realizing, you start preventatively, like preemptively already dodging stuff just in case it comes, so you don't have to respond as quickly because you're like reducing the amount of possible outcomes, right? If you see like a giant network of like a giant flowchart, you're basically picking like options in the flowchart that minimize the amount of total options on the bottom, and that comes from experience as well. So even if you're, I'm not saying like go into like a human evolution lab and fucking try to, optimize your response time and try to make that better, but you won't need as good of a response time once you have more experience and once you've just encountered more scenarios, because it'll just kind of come naturally. For my mom, it doesn't, which is, its own thing, but she's like 70 years old, so I don't think you're quite at that level. I hope not. Because for her, it's like every single time almost she's doing it, it's like, it's the first time again, and like it's like completely reset. If she doesn't do it for 2 weeks, it's like completely reset. But yeah, for you, that's probably not as much the case. But I would look at, if you want to do those bosses, like yesterday, I think just through asking, there were like 2, 3, 4 other people that were like, I want to start like trying, like practicing hard loose and hard will, not with just some randos that I can't communicate with, and also not with people who are basically on their 4th character, they're just, I'm gonna feel like I'm holding them back, but like purely like completely new, I suck, I'm gonna die out most likely, and then go together. If you could get a group of like 3 or 4 people like that together, then just like hit me up and I'll help you guys, and I'll take some time for it, and I'll like coach you guys through it, just to kind of talk through like what are the the pain points, what are possible solutions for certain things,
Right, yeah, that makes sense.
I think it's better to just rather than doing that one-on-one for like a small group of people, because you could lift each other up a lot as well and be like, come on, let's go in like 2 more times, and just like let's die 20 more times. As long as you learn from every one of those deaths, then those are valuable deaths, and that's that's progress. If you just go in, you get carried, but then you die out, you learn absolutely nothing.
And it's more of a chance to practice later phase mechanics. Like if I'm dying out in phase 1 or don't have the damage by myself for it, I'm never gonna practice later phase stuff. So
what I've even seen in Discord is some people are like, oh, I want to practice hard Lotus, and then it'll just grab someone into Discord, go in practice mode, they'll just kill part 1 and part 2 really quickly, and then just leave the boss fight and let you do P3 by yourself kind of thing, right? If people are really strong, they can carry you through the practice mode pretty quickly, and you can practice the other modes. For Will, I do have the command with like little mini games that somebody made. So for each one of the phases, basically where you can kind of see the patterns of the attacks, and you can move a little character. It's a little weird, right? Because it's like a recording in the background. It's a character moving around, but it's very similar in terms of your walk speed, and you just learning to see like what are the patterns actually like, and where do I want to be moving. Because in my opinion, if you're doing like a challenging boss, P1 should always just be, or P1 stage 1 should always just be, let me just look at the attacks, like how big are they, how fast are they, where do I get hit, where do I not get hit, how much do I get hit for, and that'll help you in prioritizing. Okay, something that hits you a low percentage but repositions you, that's high danger, right? Something that does high damage and doesn't reposition you, that's also high danger if your HP is low. Something that deals like, pretty low damage and doesn't reposition you, or doesn't like seal you or invert you or anything like that, you can probably just get hit by that, and you're probably supposed to get hit by that. So if you see those 2 attacks at the same time, it's not about trying to dodge everything, it's trying to like specifically try to get hit by the thing that is the least dangerous, so that you don't get hit by the other thing. Because what a lot of times happens, if you're like focusing on dodging something, you're still focusing on the thing, and then sometimes in trying to dodge 2 things, you get hit by both, and then that's the worst outcome. So step 1 is kind of like is just like jumping around and just living, right? That's like a good step 1. And then once you can do that, you can start weaving in damage, and then probably you're going to go overboard a little bit, and you're probably going to start dying out again, but you'll do some damage. And then the next step is how can I do a little bit more damage without the extra risk, or do a little bit less damage without the risk, whatever. Finding that sweet spot for your character. And then some characters can get away with more, some characters get away with less, some characters need to get like a curring for the extra invincibility. Some characters have, when you have your origin, you can get a lot riskier with that. Some are more bursty, some are more DPM, right? So some need to be on the ball the whole time, and their positioning is very important. Some other characters just run away. That's where the class difference will come in.
Right. Yeah, I think finding shade specific stuff will probably, I haven't gone looking too hard.
Yeah.
Just watching people, where it's not just them blasting a boss down in 2 seconds.
Yeah, I mean that is cool to see, like that's something you can aspire to, and eventually that could be you. But until you're there, it doesn't really help you get there, But it would be cool to see, like, if you're that strong, then what is your burst setup? What do people use first? What do people use last? But I don't know if have you joined the Shade Discord?
Yeah, I'm in the Shade
okay.
Discord.
Mm-hmm. So I don't know if you have specific things there that because it's one thing to look at, like, oh, what's the order in leveling up the V matrix, and what's your optimal covert rotation or something. But I don't know if there's specific rooms or specific people you can ask, and like, hey, just like starting on Lucid and Will, what are like 2 or 3 tips if you're just starting on Lucid and Will that can really make the boss fight a lot easier for you? For people who've done the boss like 100 times, what is something you wish someone told you as a Shade on like week 1 or week 2 of trying it?
The Shade Discord's actually really excellent because they've got a whole in-depth fact with every boss and every mechanic that works for that boss. So it's just a matter of deep diving and really just practicing for things that I can do solo, right? But and being ready to go into a party.
Sure, yeah. There's definitely the level of people have a different levels of expectation of themselves, of like how much they want to be able to do before they go into a party. Some people are like, I just want to kill it quickly, so I want many people around me. And some people are like, if I don't know exactly every single mechanic and how to deal with it for myself, then I don't want to burden the party. And most people are somewhere in between there.
Yeah, I probably land on if I had the damage, I could solo it. I just don't have the damage before I'm ready to go into a party. Like, know every mechanic, be able to survive the full 30 minutes or whatever, and just watch the damage not be there.
Yeah, what will happen more for bosses like Lucid, and then and for Will, and then basically all the bosses after that, is that once you get strong enough to like solo one, it usually becomes, for your growth, it becomes inefficient to keep soloing that, but it makes more sense to then party up and do one level higher that you won't be able to solo yet.
Right, and I think that's kind of where I'm about to be, or am if I was better, is that it's not efficient to be soloing anything. I mean, it'd be a lot better if I was getting into parties for the next step up.
Yeah, because if you get to that point where you can do like a long normal, well, if you do like a very, very long normal Lucid solo run, might not necessarily be ready yet for hard Lucid, but you'd definitely be going in that direction. But you're also, a bit more supporty. You've got a bunch of debuffs you bring to the party, right? Extra critical damage and that kind of stuff. So, and the split on P2, right? 'Cause she can move there. So that should help quite a bit with your value overall. That there's like a multiplier there, like an invisible multiplier now, going from solo to party play. But there is definitely, it's definitely hit or miss if you're going with random parties, versus if you have a little bit more power over the selection process. If you can find some people in Twitch chat, if you can find some people in my Discord as well. There's like boss sign up roles there, right? So you can sign up for Lucid and Will role and kind of just ask in there if anyone else is trying to start practicing Lucid and Will, and see if people are available. Usually weekends are a good time to see if that's possible. Or guild and alliance. I should talk a little bit again with audio, but we're trying to see if we can get our alliance, instead of just being 2 guilds with like our mule guilds in there, if you can just get like 4 or 5 like actual full guilds in there, so we can have more alliance crossover with people. I think that'll help a lot for forming parties, and just having more people in direct access will increase the likelihood of someone being in the same situation where you can help each other out.
Right. I think what's deterred me a little bit is that I'm surrounded by people that are really strong and have been doing this for years, and that kind of, if there's people around that are doing it for the first time, I'd much rather be in that party and dying out and learning together than the person that's doing it on their 6th mule, and you know, they've done it so many thousands of times that they're not even thinking anymore.
Yeah, I can also, some people are just not, it's not like a personal attack, but some people aren't as good at teaching because they don't really realize the mechanics through which they have learned, or don't even realize anymore that things just don't come automatically. So it can be hard for people to convey, oh, you just do this. What do you mean just do that? Like, there's no indicator for me there. It's like, well, you just kind of, know. Just do it 200 times. I mean, some things will come like that, but some things, someone just has to tell you, like, hey, this skill in that situation, that's like a 99% escape, so use that there. You know, and that's where a combination of like Shade Discord and practice and preemptively dodging stuff so you don't have to react as quickly. That's where all of that comes together. But one thing you can do, have you used the boss menu thing before, like yourself, or if you only tagged on with runs that were already on there and being done, basically being recruited for?
The recruiter party thing?
Yeah.
I've made it before, but it's usually like not for, like I said, I don't want to do anything where I'm struggling in a party and then feel like or like going with pub people, it's like you don't know if you're going to get someone that's actually blasting it and then you die out and they kill it anyway. So like I depend too much on the boss crystals. I just solo what I can and then go on.
Well, you could a little bit now, right? I think with combat power now you can click other people and kind of see their stuff. You can have a much better idea of how strong everyone is, and if everyone is like around the same level, or if someone is just going to be nuking it, right? They should be adding it in the future as well, that you can select in the party selection by amount of combat power. But of course, someone could put on drop rate gear and then join in and then switch their gear. But then if you click them, you'll be able to see their equips, right? You can see if they're trying to like gauge the system. And if you're leading, they also can't like drag you in and do it for you, but if you're leading, you can make sure that everything's on point before you even go in, right? And I think, I mean, the amount of people that would do that is minimal. Maybe like on a Wednesday, if it's the last day and they just want to get a clear in, they assume people want carries anyway. But if you're running mostly on weekends, where just most people are, or I guess on Thursday, but on Thursday, I think on Thursday and on Wednesday, people are most desperate. On Thursday, people who have like a busy week, they just want to get it done, so they don't care. And on Wednesday, it's already last day, so they'd rather get it clear than nothing. But on weekends, I think is when people who take the most time, who have the most free time, who otherwise are busy throughout the week and can't do like those long practicing sessions, I think is the best time. And I would just set up a party and say like total noob practice, something like that. Because the people who really don't want to deal with noobs are not going to join that, because they don't want to deal with all that shit, right? So you will just get people who are completely new and who are in the same boat as you. And I think even with like 1 or 2 questions in the party chat, you can pretty quickly like, oh, do you guys have any experience? Like 0, or like I did it once in a party, something like that. And then you'll be good to go. But yeah, I think a voice chat and stuff like that will help a lot for like helping each other with call outs and stuff, and deciding like what is an important call out, what is not that important. So I mean, if you want, you can use my Discord for that. There's like some rooms with some boss rooms, right, that you can just jump into. You don't have to like be in a certain role or anything. You can always just jump in there. I think Reboot Central is the same thing. That's another Discord that people use a lot, even though, technically I guess it should be Heroic Central now, but rebranding that, I don't think you can just rename it a Discord, so they're probably stuck with that name for a while. Yeah, so 17 mil, that's like joining parties. For Hard Will, that's gonna probably be rough. But for Hard Lucid, if you have like a full party and everyone's at that point, that should be able to kill.
That stat window's missing a couple buffs. It was just the things that weren't consumables and were full-time. So I probably get closer to like 20, 21 with everything popped.
Well, buffs don't affect like your combat power, so it would say the same. Okay. Yeah. It's not a perfect system, so I'm not trying to say like, oh, 17, that means you can do this boss in 18 minutes or something, right? Like you can't really do that kind of deduction. But like what I've started running now on my Cane, and I feel like I could pull its own weight, but it's still always been in parties where there's like at least a few stronger people as well. But, you know, percentage-wise, I know I can deal a bigger percent of my damage than someone else with the same combat power because of the positioning and experience that I have. So I can make 20 mil work for me like someone else maybe it's like 25 mil or 30 mil, right?
Sure.
But yeah, I did a pickup group as well for like hard for normal, like 4 weeks back, with someone who was level 269. But they were like same combat power as me. So if someone, while I was 237 or something, you know. So yeah, that is going to be a better indicator for you than like how big is this person's legion, because like you said, it could be their 6th character and they could have already like 6,000 lucid clears under their belt, and that's going to be a whole different experience for you. It's just going to feel like you're running like parallel to each other. You're not like doing things together, right?
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, it's going to take some work because it's harder to find those exact people. But if you're looking at a lot of different places, hopefully you can find some here and there. I'll try to keep an eye out if I can.
Yeah, I'll put a call out in the Discord and see if anyone's and toss it in chat. I'm in chat pretty frequently, so you could probably arrange something.
All right, cool. All right, so for today specifically, you had some notes, right?
Yeah, it's on the first page.
Yeah. Let's see what's in there. Let's see what we've already gone through. 1 to 3 hours. Oh, there goes the voice.
And the time frame was totally guessing based on your progression thing. I don't know. I know some of those progression steps are on the order of multiple months, and others are a couple weeks of concerted effort, depending on funding and if we get events, right? So I'm spitballing for the time frames, but those are, I think, the steps I want to be on.
Time frames.
So like where it says short term, weeks, question mark, medium term, long term. For my goals there.
For your goals. Oh my god, I'm blind. Hang on. Where is that?
Bold 2 cells above where you are.
Oh, here. Okay. Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. Okay. All right. I'm sorry. Blinding. Okay.
And then I kind of split it into to make the main better, to make the account and income better, for the goals.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a very common question. People are like, "Oh, do I spend money on Legion, or do I spend money on, or do I spend time on Legion, or spend time on my main?" And my boring answer is always, "Well, you always want to do both, but you want whether how you balance it, like that will probably be dependent partially on whether you're close to a milestone on one of the two. You know, if you're like at 5.8k Legion, maybe you go just really hard on Legion until you hit that 6k, and then maybe ease off the throttle again a little bit. But if your main character is like 264, maybe, you know, and there's an event going on, there's coupons, maybe go pretty hard and get that 265 so you can get extra Grandis symbol, and you can start, you know, getting extra arcane sacred power. It'll help you close the gap towards Saren and towards Kalos and that kind of stuff. So, you know, and it's also a subjective thing. Like, do you feel like grinding and do you like hate working on Legion? Then, you know, by all means, grind more than the average. You know, you can overcompensate very easily, and you know about the progression grid. Like, there's some numbers where if you're a little bit on the lower end, that's fine, as long as the other stuff is a little bit on the higher end. If you do a little bit more of what you like and a little bit less of what you don't like, it'll even out. This is more like a general advice on if you're really far off these numbers, then this will give you an idea of like, well, if you put a little bit more time there, you get a lot more efficiency for your time. But that still doesn't mean you have to do it. It just means that you could, you know. So Soul Hurdle is Damien. Yeah, so that's usually after the party. Yeah, damage-wise. I mean, you'll see some people who can like do it with like 18k stat or something. I think that's when like Kobe's Buck did it with like 16k stat or something like that. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah, all of my, it's all distorted by watching Kobe do stuff. It's like I have no idea what's realistic for me because that's the content I'm engaging with.
Yeah, I think for most people, their first clears for like Hard Lotus and Hard Damien that are like realistic, comfortable clears are probably closer to like over double that stat, like over like 35 to 36k or something. You know, that's
okay.
That's where more people are, where they're like, oh, now I feel comfortable like moving in there. It's probably a little bit lower now because that number is still like without Origins. So Origins probably took that closer towards a 30k mark. But I had some characters where I would just do normal until I hit like almost 40k, because then I know that I can like kill it in like, you know, in like under 10 minutes for sure. But some people are okay with doing like 20 to 25 minutes like every week on their character. You know, that's like a personal thing. Just there's a difference between being able to kill it in 28 minutes or being able to kill it in 8 minutes, right? Like both are able to kill it, but that's a completely different if you're limited for time like you are. It could be a thing where you just try to solo it once and see if you can, and then once you can, you're like, okay, that's cool that I can, but I'm not going to do this every week, so I'm just going to look for like a duo partner, and we'll just, you know, make it more realistic, make it so that we can kill Lotus and Damien within one set of G skills, for example, together, and then we'll figure something out for the drops. That always seems way more reasonable of a progression path than like soloing everything on every character that can every week. That's just so much time.
Right. Yeah, and that's I'm falling into that where I have a ton of characters capable of doing like up to CRA, but I'm not doing every character's CRA, even though it's a lot of money that I could have incoming. It's just because on some of those characters they're 10-minute clears or whatever. So.
Yeah, and it's good to set those boundaries for yourself. Yeah. If you could get some money by grinding on your main or by doing a Legion mule, but it's about the same, but on your main you'd also get EXP and you'd also get fragments, then obviously that's going to be better value for your account. And if you enjoy doing things equally, or you even enjoy the grinding more, then obviously you grind in that situation, right? But if you want to bring your whole account up, elevate it in the sense of like general income and everything, make sure that you're always doing at least a little something on a boss mule that you want to be able to boss on, and work a little bit on like symbol dailies, for example, or make sure that if you have event EXP that is not as efficient anymore on your higher level character, that you start giving that towards that character. So maybe that character gets, instead of like 210 or 215, that character gets like 225 or 230, because now, you know, with extra matrix slot, maybe some extra nodes, and there's an event, you can work on a WSE, maybe get 215 IED familiars, maybe we can reinforce Galax, slowly work on all of that, and now that character can kill like the same bosses but kill it like in a third of the time, and now it becomes a completely different equation on where does half an hour of my time go, because now half an hour of time on the boss mule, it gets triple the value compared to the main, and now it becomes much more reasonable to take a little bit of time off of the grinding and a little bit more on boss mules.
Right, and I think that was one of my bigger like generalized questions is how to balance that. Just how much should I be investing, because my main is still not where I want it to be, and I think there's some easy gains to be had. I just am not sure about them, versus throwing a bunch of money at mules to get their clears fast enough where I can do them regularly. It's just I'm trying to find that balance.
Sorry. Yeah, usually for money for boss mules, the best place I think to spend your money is just to get like probably not the weapon too early until you get the actual Fafnir weapon, but like weapon secondary and emblem, get those to legendary and get those to 2-line. That tends to be really good value for them, especially if you know it's going to be like a long-term boss mule, right? Like, you know, you enjoy it, you want to log into it, you want to do it, it's just not quite there yet in strength. That's one thing, and then the other thing is you need that crit rate and their ID to be set, so you need like a decent sized Legion, which you have, right? So you have your 8k, so that's no problem. ID shouldn't be a problem, but still going for like 15% ID familiars is a good idea to do. Just unlock one extra badge, and then extra spare familiars from like leveling and from working on your Legion. Hopefully you have some lying around. Just reveal on there until you get to 15% IDs. And then honestly, Reinforced Galax is very quick compared to Superior, and it's not that much worse. And the individual pieces are kind of shit anyway. It's all about the set bonus. So that's something you can do. But another one is like getting access to put your mules into like a mule guild, right? Because I think you might have had one or two in the guild a while ago.
Yeah, when I went on break, I got them all out of the guilds so that they were taking slots. Yep. So I only have the main right now.
Yeah, the mule guild is pretty full. I mean, I do like checks every now and then to see like some people are a little bit inactive, and I've already promised them that they could keep us a few spots. But with the Scar mules, I try to like churn pretty regularly and try to get the inactive mules out of there, because other people aren't as good as like, oh, I'm not gonna play this character for a while, but then they just leave them in and then they just take up a slot. Because Mule Guild is now pretty comfortably always getting 41 skill points. Could probably get 43. I mean, ideally we get like 30 to 40 more big active people in the main guild, and then a lot of people can move some of their secondary characters into the Mule Guild, and then the Mule Guild can get elevated pretty quickly towards like 45 skill points, bringing it basically to the same as the main guild, because 45 or 49 really doesn't make much of a difference. And the Raindor Guild is it's level 27, it's getting there, but it gets like 15 skill points now from just, like a 2 hands full of people just doing some culvert or something. And it's already an easy 30% critical damage, so that's pretty straightforward as well. So that'll give you a lot of funding for not a lot of money. So you want to get those like big gains without spending a whole lot of cash, and then just kind of see where the character is at, because different characters have different needs, right? So certain characters will just already, just for having the V matrix, maybe with like 50 nodes or something, nothing too major, they might already have, and with those things I just mentioned, they might already just come online and be able to do CRA very quickly, maybe even add like HMAG, something like that, and that'll be enough. And then you get the ball rolling, you get more cubes, you get some more flames here and there, and then you slowly start upgrading them. And then maybe those resources go to the next character, and then the total amount of money you spend per character, like specifically Meso, that's going out of your main, is going to start decreasing and decreasing, because the amount of items you get that you fund with is going to start increasing. Plus, big events that happen, the items are maybe not going to be as useful anymore on your main character, so they're all going to go to side characters as well, which are just time value items and not Meso value items. So more of the money can just go directly to your shade and can start getting saved for the shade.
Makes sense. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Twist rotation, later looking at progression stuff. Income. Should go
So,
Bam, Buccaneer. Okay.
Yeah, those are just the mules that are close.
Yeah, so how much you invest that's a tricky question, because some characters will need more than others. What I usually go by is I get them those basics, right? Like the ID, the reinforced Galax, like guild skills, all that shit, and then I just see how far I get in half an hour with the bosses that I want to be able to do on there. So if you get pretty close, then you have time, then I would say do some more symbol dailies. If you just need more levels, maybe for more matrix, more damage, some skill that you need to throw in there that gives you a lot of damage, maybe do some monster park and put some event EXP or some event tickets and stuff on the character. And if you just need raw damage, then maybe put some nodes on the character, and then just reassess again, another week later, and then check again until they get to the speed where you want them. But I never go by like this blueprint of like, okay, you want to do this boss, that means 350 nodes, that means, because there's all RNG involved, right? Or like that's exactly 15 bill, where some character will only need 6 bill and another character might need 20. So it's very hard to say like this is exactly where you need to be. So I usually just play it by ear. I play it by how fast I want it to be, and if it has a shortage, I look at the resources that I have available to fund my character with. And then I go by whatever is the resource that I have the most of, because that'll relatively have the lowest value for my account. So that's where I can get the most efficient gains. Right? If I have 100 nodes lying around, then that's a valuable resource for me. So I wouldn't necessarily want to use those. But if I have some time available in the week, then I'd rather just do symbol dailies for like a week or two and then see how that helps the character. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yeah. And I think I say invest, and I wasn't looking for a number, but what you just told me basically was just that order of operations to make progress and see where they're at makes a lot of sense. Yeah,
the G skills like makes a huge difference. So if you can get that sorted, and maybe our guild doesn't have enough room, but there's always like some random guilds that are available where people are just like, hey, do a culvert if you can, and like every week if people don't do culvert, they get kicked. But you could very easily get a guild like that has access to I don't know, if you just look for like bossing or something, Bossing Mule Guild, I don't know what you could look for exactly. I'd have to check it up. But I know there are guilds where they just have like 38 or something like that, 39, 37 skill points, which is already really good, right? Already 2 maxed out skills, and all you have to do is like 1 culvert a week, and there's no like strings attached, there's no like you have to communicate here, you don't have to be in a Discord or anything. It's just that. That could also be a good like temporary solution until the spot opens up, for example. If you want to do more, and if you don't want to do more on that character, that might even be a little more semi-permanent solution for that character. But that's just for the amount of time that's going to take you, just like 3 or 4 minutes out of your week to run a culvert, and you don't even have to have like a set score, just try to do your best. That's going to be so much more value for your account than whatever you could do in terms of simple dailies or upgrading or, you know, or nodes. You know, that's just going to be so much more valuable. So make sure you check those boxes first, and then see how much investment is necessary after that for a character.
Yeah, okay. I guess I undervalue G skills because I only recently, in terms of playing the game, started actually joining guilds. So it's like not in the front of my mind, hey, this is super important, but
yeah, you could very easily get 2 of them max. Like the 30% boss damage is of course not like a total game changer, but the less total damage you have, you might have characters early on that only have like 300% total damage or something. So if you get 30% damage added, that's just 10% final damage essentially. So everything multiplied by 1.1. Any kind of monetary value, you would have to do that. The critical damage one is 30% critical damage. Most characters early on have under 100% critical damage, or with everything combined, maybe around 100%. So that'd be 30% FD essentially. So yeah, you combine those two.
Right, that's a huge amount of time saved.
43% FD, yeah.
Spend a few minutes doing a culvert and save tens of minutes over the course of all your bosses.
Yeah, that adds up to like weeks of time saved, yeah. And money, right? And then that money can save up for longer and then can stick around for events and then do more efficient upgrades there. It just snowballs into bigger gains for your whole account.
Right.
Because that's what the boss moves are for, right? You try to do minimal investment with maximum return. That's their purpose. So get those huge gains and then do minimal investments after that.
Right. Yep. Yeah. For me, where I'm a little slower on things, a little worse at bosses, the comfortable kill speed is usually like 2 bursts tops. Like for something, if it's not killed in 2 bursts, 2 3-minute bursts, then I probably don't want to bother doing that boss for that character.
Okay, so like 4 or 5 minutes tops, I guess. Like starting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Go in, bind burst, wait for it to come up, bind burst, and then maybe beat on it for a little bit more. But
yeah,
I'm things like CRA, they're easy enough that I'm capable of lasting the whole time. It's just like I don't feel like spending, 10-12 minutes on Vellum or something.
Yeah.
When I could just 2 burst him later,
That's valid. But make sure that you have a plan for that character to either do that or not do that, right? Because it's very easy to say like, oh, well, I'll be stronger later, but you'll have to actively work on a character to get that stronger, right? So have a plan for that character. What are you going to do to get that much stronger? Are you going to do symbol dailies for a few weeks? Are you going to dedicate a certain type of resource to that character to make that happen? Or do you find like this character is actually not that fun and I'm going to look for another bossing wheel? Because it is an active process as well. And that's also the good thing about doing it a little bit slowly, but a little bit more meticulous and a little bit more organic, I would say, in that if you do find that another character can take that spot, and that there's also not like, shit, I already invested like 30 bill into this character, really, now I feel like I have to play it every week, right? You want to make sure that they're characters you like to log into and that you like to play, and if you don't like it anymore, you can also let go more easily because you're not as financially and emotionally like invested into the success and the gains of that character.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense too.
Yeah, and Lotus and Damien, yeah. One thing that some people do is like they'll push one character towards Lotus and Damien and then let the other ones flow a little bit more organically. Some people just fund everything at the same time, but that's probably not going to be for you. Some people start from the bottom and really just do like a whole bunch of CRA, then add some add some like HMAG on characters that can do it already. Some other characters might be a little bit slower. Some other characters might be a little bit faster. Because you've got a few characters that are like, not like the top 3 classes that would come up if people are like, oh, what boss mule should I make? most people aren't like, oh yeah, Corsair, bam, mechanic. Those aren't exactly the top picks. But if those are characters you enjoy, then those are the characters you should pick. Because those are the ones you'll like logging into, you'll like playing, and those are the ones you want to succeed. And that's, I think, more valuable than it's good to have some of those, and also some just like brain dead, like I have to pick these because they're just so stupid strong, right? I try to find a healthy balance of characters that are a little bit more active in their bossing and characters that are just really brain dead, so that whatever I feel like at the time, I can just pick a character that has that picks my mood, and I don't have to feel as much as like it's chores, but it's just something that comes a little bit more naturally for me.
Yeah, I think adding a boss mule that's that brain dead, like just easy to fund, low bar, go in, smash it, would be decent for me to add that as my next one I do, because like you said, Corsair, mechanic, they're really low on the DPS, so it takes a lot more to get them to that speed I like.
Exactly, and it takes more funding, yeah. And that's, since you boss mule, you're trying to turn them into revenue generators, and if they take more initial investment, that kind of goes against their stated purpose, right? But if you also want them maybe alternatively as like side characters later, then it's totally valid that they start off as a boss move for a little bit, but then transition into that. But like a class like Buck would usually comes up way more often, because it's got that high level base funding, it's got that good ID, good crit rate, good solid burst. I got a half burst, it's got DPM, and it's relatively simple, but it's also got crazy mobility if you wanted to. Like, it's very versatile. So that is usually more a class that comes up. Other classes like Hero come up. People like Wind Archer, for example, to also very, very simple, very straightforward, very good early on. Some people really like Bowmaster. Some people really hate Bowmaster. You can check out if it's for you. It's got lifesteal, and it's got like a lot of shells, like safety shells, basically, that it builds up. So my mom plays that one a lot for a lot of the bossing. That helps her out a lot, where she would otherwise die, and then it just saves her. She also has a Pathfinder that doesn't have anything like that, and then bossing is way harder for her on that, because there's just too many things to think about. That's another thing, right? If you have a lot more survivability, a lot more sustainability on a character, that also helps with if you have bad reaction time, or if you just get overwhelmed a little bit by mechanics of a boss when a lot of stuff is going on at the same time. It can also help you that you don't have to worry about certain things as much, but that can help you make you fall into the trap of just not even knowing that some things are going on. And then if you play on a different character, you could get blindsided because you never even took into consideration that something could actually be killing you, or was trying to kill you, but yeah, something else, the mechanics just took care of that for you.
Right. It's like you were talking about the other week about people that party with Lins are going to get so spoiled that they don't know what mechanics are.
Yeah, that might happen. Yeah, people that start up now and just sort of like, oh, this boss doesn't do anything. I had the same thing with Chaos Queen, because I started with Demon Avenger, and Crimson Queen was like, this boss is just so easy, right? Because she only did like flat damage, and the DA just has like infinite fucking lifesteal. So, and I had, at that point already like 300,000 HP or something, so just nothing was happening. And then the first time I did it on other characters, like, what is this poison thing? Like, I can't even heal. Like, I'm just dying to everything. Like, what's going on? And that's when you realize that, depending on what character you pick, you might be getting blindsided by some mechanics if you play from a different perspective. But that's, I think, the fun part about the game, is that you can play it through a completely different class and have a pretty different experience with the exact same content. That's a cool thing, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, BAMs. Try to make sure that we kind of stay on track as well for time, because we're already almost halfway. I want to make sure we get through all your questions and your concerns. That's all good so far?
Yeah, and I think, I mean, you covered the big picture stuff. It would just be, it's more just, how should I effectively upgrade gear and make my shade stronger? Because I think I've fallen into that trap that a lot of people do, where cubing feels safe and star forcing feels dangerous.
Yeah.
And so I overcubed a lot, like way too much investment on cubes without ever star forcing, and I think I just need to get a lot of attack from star force at this point.
Yeah, and well, it's not wrong. Cubing is safer and star forcing is riskier. That's why you want to work on drop rate gear pretty early on, so that you can get more backups to make Starforcing less risky, and that you can dip into the efficiency of Starforcing over having to min-max your potentials past 2-line legendary. Because I see this as well, like 17 everything 2-line legendary. To me, this is already too much in terms of potentials, because I would never go 2-line legendary on CRA, for example, before it's 19 or maybe even 21. But on things like WSE, I would go 2-line legendary before I 17 star everything, right? So it's not just like a general rule for all items. It's even more specifically in subcategories per items. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
And then flames and stuff. Well, for that, I just would look at this, right? The progression, grid, and look at the flames there. You could say 90 plus, but if you stick to this a little bit more detailed, like, then it'll make more sense in terms of the general, because you have flame advantage, not flame advantage, right? 90 plus on a non-flame advantage item is like trillions. So, but that's just to add a little bit more nuance. I know you probably know these things, but just to double check. The general order of operations, yeah, for me would be, if I would just like take a step back, for most accounts, it's usually like the secondary and emblem to legendary, if it's like your main character, right? And then, yeah, I would get everything else that is like epic, probably get it up to like 9% epic, maybe accessories goes to like 12% or something. Then walk up Starforce. But before that, Starforce, really, if everything is like 11 or 12 Starforce, I would want to see like the drop rate set. At least the initial one of like 5 Meso 4 drop. But probably be working towards, there's a cube sale, probably be working towards getting more drop rates at, like maybe working up to like 8 or 9 pieces with a line of drop, you know, up to a max of 10 for the 200% magical number. Excuse me. And then with that money and with those drops, be able to get to 17 already in a different way. Because some items, if you have a lot of backups, you go to 17 without needing to safeguard, and for some you will need to safeguard, right? So the sooner you get that drop rate, the sooner you'll be able to make more optimal decisions already in the Starforcing up to 17. But also specifically in making more money on the way up there, and then already opening up the gates to maybe going to 19, because maybe some items, you know, items that go to 15 but not past 15, it's totally fine to leave those at like 10 or 11 stars like forever, because the gains from 12 to 15 in terms of money per gains is extremely low. So just dedicating all of that money towards things that can go past 15 makes way more sense, right? So 30% offs to get things to 15, 5, 10, 15 to get things past 15, and then once that drop rate set is there, like 8 or 9 pieces, hopefully 9, right? One of each of the accessories that can get drop or Meso. Rings, pendants, eye face, earring. And then from that, you have a solid foundation. The only other thing, you know, like drop rate from familiars, so that's like a little bit sideways, but if you have more drop rate, you get more familiars to drop, so you can work on that faster, so that snowballs with that. Then it's usually like Starforce, like Starforce, right? Because either you're going to get a lot of Starforce and you're going to keep your current potential, which is like, you know, either somewhere between like 9 and 12%, maybe there's a 15% here and there, but it's mostly like epic and unique, and it's really on your WSC that's legendary, and then all of your drop and your Meso stuff, because you're not really settled in what is there for damage, what is there for drop, what is there for Meso. Like, it's all kind of like a mix and match of everything together. So you want those fundamentals to go up, which is Starforce, because that's mostly on gear that you're going to be wearing when you're mobbing and bossing, right? So it's your CRA stuff. It's your, well, Abso up to 17, but it's like your CRA stuff, and then it's usually the stuff you get a lot of. So it's like, it can be kind of treasure rings, it can be dominators if you get lucky, it could be any kind of item that you would fodder into the superior stuff, because you're working on the superior gear at that time, right? So you're looking at level 140 pieces that you could transform into superior. So it'll be things like kind of treasure rings, things like reinforced drops from Golix, so that's why Helix is like super important daily, right? You're doing Arcarium for possible dominators, for possible primals that you can then use to make Meister rings if you need to supplement kind of treasure rings if you get unlucky there. Because like the sooner you get that drop rate, the sooner you'll be able to see these are things that I'm getting lucky at, so I can risk that earlier because the risk factor will be lower. And these things are I'm unlucky at, and then, you know, that's where the risk is higher, so I can wait for that upgrade. But then you need to make money anyway, right?
So with the drop versus meso gear, are we in the era of 6 job? Are we just abandoning all meso unless we're doing hybrid and just do drop on everything? If for a drop meso, because I have
Yeah.
like 3 lines of meso versus I think I have 4 of drop at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
On my grinding gear, it's down into
Mm-hmm.
the right. It's in text instead of a bunch of pictures, just to the right. Yeah.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, yeah. Okay. Mm-hmm.
So, um, should I just like I'm not gonna necessarily re-roll those now. I'm gonna wait till later. But they're just I did the event rings, just made them my grinding drop set, and right
Yeah.
now a lot of those pieces are like all the rings I don't switch out because I don't have better other rings yet, and they're all like meso or drop and some strength.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's great. It's great to have those like split rings, but that means that cause since that damage is locked there, there's no more damage coming from there, but there's always damage being asked for moving through the game. That makes more sense that you will want more Starforce on your CRA and on the other pieces that you're going to be wearing both when mobbing and bossing, so your bossing can keep progressing and your mobbing doesn't like halt and your kill speed doesn't get into problems. But I would build on like that full set of drop and meso as soon as possible so that you have that foundation so that you get more value out of your time. For your first character, you'll always want to like cap the meso and then add as much drop to that as possible, meaning that you go from like a 5-4 to like a 5-5, a 5-6 as you get double lines, but that 5 meso is going to be more important, especially if you're limited on time, as long as your boss mules aren't like starting to bring in like at least 10 bill a week, I would say. Once you start going past that point, past that tipping point, you can really go more full all out on like drop rate gear and purely work on the fragments and everything. But right now, your main source of income is still grinding on your shade, right? You're leveling on your shade. Maybe the symbols on your shade are like getting close, but like the leveling on your shade and everything you're doing on there is still a very large percentage of your income. So you want to be able to multiply that with the meso gear. And so once you get to the point where you're making way more money off of your bossing familiars, bossing mules, and you have like a side character, that side character could very easily just skip that first step and go more purely towards drop rate immediately and towards backups because it doesn't need that financial income anymore. It's not going to depend on that character because the whole account is already taking care of that, and then you can start skipping that step.
Okay, that makes sense. So if I cube anything, I should get 2 more lines of meso, so I'm at 5, as long as my shade is my main income source from grinding.
Yeah.
And then, but I'm gonna keep the drop lines I already have just to hit boxes and stuff. Don't roll over those. I'll just get other things to swap in with meso lines.
Yeah. So ideally, you work towards like a 5-4 set and then a 0-9 set.
Okay.
That's Yep. Hopefully, the cube sale now can help you make that. And it will seem weird to like zero out on stuff when Starforcing is like your biggest gains, but if you don't have your drop rate and your meso gear set, you might get like, to 18 and to 19 faster by spending it all on Starforcing, but you'll get to like 21 slower, right? So it's all about taking one step back so you can take 3 steps forward instead of muttering forward with like less efficiency. Like you don't have to, but if you do that, you're going to reach a point more quickly like you did with the Starforcing and with the risk, is that the risk assessment is just going to get too high and you're going to have to wait longer and longer and longer until you make upgrades. And what the drop rate and the meso gear allows you to do is when you are waiting longer, you also actually get more result in that time. You have more money and more drops, and now you can make those big jumps in upgrades.
Okay. Yeah, so spending a little bit to get the extra meso lines will be worth it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
In the long run.
Yes, definitely. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you see this a lot with people who go. This is what I was talking about before. Who go to legendary or unique or legendary on like other accessories for damage too early, and then they start relying on the damage for the accessories, and it gets them stronger than people around them faster. So it feels like it's the good decision, and you can kill the bosses quicker. But now, even though you're killing the bosses, maybe a few weeks before other people, every single individual monster kill is worth just 1. But when someone gets a lot of drop rate, every single individual monster kill, once they can do it, is worth like 2, right? So after a certain amount of weeks, they'll just surpass how many monster kills they've done, quote unquote, just because every single time they kill the boss, they get the value of like 2 bosses killed, roughly, right? In terms of like how likely is it to get certain equips versus the other person. So eventually you just surpass them. Same thing with the fragments. If you go full on drop rate for the fragments, immediately some people might be getting more fragments and leveling up a bit faster. And there's something to say about the intervals, right? Like I said in the beginning, if you're at 264, going a little bit harder on grinding so you can get to 265, you can get to a new area, you can get a new symbol. That's like a peak, right? Because it's not linear. It's like little, peaks and valleys kind of thing in your progress.
Right.
So if you can get to the point where you can get to a new boss, and then that new boss can help you get an extra chance per week of like arcane armors and stuff, that's very valuable. But if you're making that upgrade just to get a bit stronger than someone who built that foundation of drop and Meso instead, they might, for example, hit like a ring box earlier and get lucky with that. And now they get way more damage than you ever could. Plus, because they have that foundation, they'll get the new pieces that will replace the old pieces faster. And yeah, it's not as intuitive as you think. It's like, oh, just get damage. But for a boss mule, now the purpose of the character is different. So if you know where the character is going to stop and know which drops you will need, which pieces you will need to make it as strong as it needs to be, maybe it doesn't need drop rate at all. Maybe you'll just, there's only like 5 equips that are like a little bit random and it might take a few weeks. But then once you have them, you're locked in. So you can go for epic and unique with just a little bit of stat instead with the free cubes and just keep rolling that. And now that character, can come online faster because it doesn't need as much Starforce, because it does get more damage from those accessories, right? So it's ultimately all about what the purpose of the character is. And since the Shade is built for long term, we want to set it up with that foundation so it can succeed in the long term.
Okay. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So, just based on that, I have, like I said, I've overinvested on cubing. I can recognize that now, but everything's legendary, unique. And so I'm basically not going to touch, except for cubing for those Meso lines, I'm not going to touch cubing at all until, because I can do 27 at minimum of all the CRE pieces. So I just want to build up a bunch of money till the next 5, 10, 15 are shining, and then just go straight for, 20 on CRA?
Yeah, so usually the next step is, so for Starforce, if you're transfer hammering, you typically want to go straight, it's like 21 or nothing, because then you can transfer into 20. If you're not transfer hammering, if you're keeping the same piece, then it makes more sense to go for basically 1 star at a time, because then every star after the next one is like, it's bigger gains, but financially it's always going to be at more extra costs than so the efficiency is going down per star typically. So you want to make sure that you've brought up the other items that have the same risk profile before you move on to the next one. So let's say that you have CRA. If you were like a shield user and you could craft like 20 or 30 of those, right? Then that would kind of put that on the same level. If you had, for example, like 12 black bean marks or something, right? That could make that, put that on the same level. If you have like 10 kind of treasure rings, that could put that roughly on the same level. So what you could do is just go 1 star on all of those. And as you as something booms, just try to bring it back up. And as you bring it back up to the patch, like go 1 star again. Basically just up to 18, up to 19. And then 19 to 20 is a bit different, because 19 to 20 is more risky than 20 to 21. So if you do hit 20 on something, it makes more sense to go 20 to 21 on that item than to go 19 on 20 on another one. And that's because at 20 you can't drop down. So if you throw that into the calculator, it's just more efficient. So it would go all 18, all 19, as long as it stays the same risk, right? But what you can do is, like, let's say that in that process, now your amount of backups for kind of treasure rings, let's say you had like 5, so it was very low risk. Let's say like even up to 19, your kind of treasure rings backups goes down to like 2. Maybe now you stop that one. Maybe you drop that one, because now that's too high of a risk for you, right? Maybe the whatever else I said, black B mark, maybe you're down to like 3 black B marks or something, or 1 black B mark. You're like, okay, I'm going to stop with that one as well. And then maybe the CRA is the only thing that's left, and then the CRA goes up from 19 to 21, because you're probably, however far you are, you're probably at like 60 backups, right? It's order of magnitude up there, so that risk profile is very low. And usually at 21, if you get 21 CRA, like one at a time, you basically want to avoid being in a situation where you get 21 CRA on one and the other ones are 17, versus someone who has 3 19s. That second person is going to gain more damage, but probably with less money on average. So you want to make sure that you get those efficient stars before you go into those inefficient stars.
Okay.
And then the next step is usually like the fodder stuff that I talked about, right, for the level 140 gear, and then transferring that into the superior and moving the superior up to 20. But because that comes later, it's very possible that that doesn't happen in the same update, right? Because you don't have enough money to do all of that in one big event. So if you do that next time, maybe by next time you've gotten like 1 or 2 belts drop as backups, right? Like superiors, or 1 or 2 earrings. And now you can do stuff like make a 21, transfer it into a new clean belt, and see if you can tap that one at 21. Because that way, if it goes, you can just upgrade that one instead of your current one, and you keep your current one as a backup later for 21 to 22. And if it doesn't go, you can just keep your current one, instead of if you transfer into the current one and it doesn't, well, then you have to either stick to 20 or risk it to 21, right? And then even if it does go, you've overwritten the potential, and since you've already admitted that you went a little bit higher on potential than average, then you also have more potential that you're losing and that you then have to replace, right? So yeah, that gives you that waiting gives you actually more options in the future because of the backups, and that works for you because you built the drop rate.
Okay, and I guess because I have like these legendary 2 and 3 lines, and I never cubed for 3 line. Let me establish that. It just happened when I hit legendary, and by the time I saw strength, it was also a couple lines. But
I mean,
so
you have it on the black bean mark, but that's a good one, right? Because that's one that we're gonna replace it with itself. So that's gonna just trace in itself. So that's a really good one to hit it on. But if you hit like the earring being at 27 at 16, that's a little bit more unfortunate. But also, if you look at the grand picture, you look at the calculators, getting back to 27% eventually, if you're talking about getting 21-star Starforce things, 27% potential is not like a huge thing. That'll just, relative to your income at that point, it's going to be a smaller part. But relative to your income now, it's a bigger part because you're still building up.
Right. So for the CRA, because that's the thing I have a lot of replacements for. It's something that I could reasonably have money. I guess I missed the part where are you because you have a lot of replacements for CRA, that's what you're actually starforcing, or do you go grab like penciliers? The penciliers doesn't go high enough, right? So
pencilier can go up to 25 technically. So, but that's what most people do. So going a piece lower is always more expensive, but lower risk for the final product.
Okay.
So if you have any situation where the final product is just really expensive or hard to replace, and you don't want to risk that, and you can avoid risking that, that's when you go for foddering. So that's that. So that's what we do for superior, because it's like a month for a backup, and it's just too high risk to get into, right? Or if it saves a lot of time. So what people can do if you start like a new account on a new server and they want to immediately get to like 21 CRA, which is not realistic on a single piece, then they might go pencilier, stack that up, wait for an event, boom, when they get their first CRA, make like 22 pencilier and transfer hammered into. But that's like very min-maxy for that specific situation. But for that situation, that would be the best thing to do. But since you already have potential on it, that potential would get overwritten. You'd have to redo that. Plus, every time you transfer, you lose a star, so you're paying for that extra as well. And you have the backup, so it just for all 3 of those things, it would not make sense to consider that in for this character.
Okay.
So one where people do consider it, which seems like a wild thing, but it's, for example, if you get a source of suffering from Vihela, right? Because it's a part of the pitch set, but it's level 160. So as soon as you hear 160, you're like, oh, I can transfer hammer 150. I can transfer superior Gollix into that. So because you're like shifting, you can actually guarantee get a 21-star source of suffering with 0 risk to the source of suffering, which is very, very rare, by getting the superior to 22 and transfer hammering into it. Superior pendant, also rare, of course, but not super duper rare and way more reproducible than the source of suffering. And we can get a high Starforce superior realistically and lower risk by using dominators or crafting at that point, or daybreak pendants at that point, right? So then you do a double transfer which in total still makes it way less risky than just star forcing on a source of suffering from 17 up and just praying, because that might set you back like a year or 2 years of running until you see that drop again, right?
Right.
So that's how you use Transfer Hammer to look at, and that's why it's good to hold on to some of those pieces just forever, like Dominators, Con of Treasurings, until you have a 22 Con of Treasuring, a 22 Superior, and a 22 Slime equipped. You would keep all of the Con of Treasurings you have ever, just to make sure that in case bad things happen. Some people boom like 20 of them and never see 19, right? Mathematically, it's super unlikely, but it can happen. And some people just only boom like 2 of them and they're done forever. So the more you have of them, the more resilient you are against bad luck.
Okay. Yeah, I've been keeping all of mine, but it's good to know that there's uses beyond just the superior for foddering those.
Yeah, in the beginning we also went like kind of Treasure or Meister into Superior into Slime Ring. But that's not as much the case anymore, because with the nerf to Sea Slime and with the Hexamatrix with 6 Shop coming out, you get to more damage way quicker, so you can start killing slime in smaller parties a lot faster, which means the general income of slime rings goes up, and that means that you can just tap on the ring itself more realistically and keep the coins instead for getting to 22 Superior faster, rather than to have to consider keeping them for fodder. And that saves the coins then for, foddering Superior into the source instead, and be able to do that quicker. And then what some people even do, the next step, is then every single time they try to go for 22 source, so you make a 21 source with a Transfer Hammer of Superior over, and if you fail the first tap, instead of trying to go up again on the 20-star source, make a new 22 Superior and Transfer Hammer that in again for just that guaranteed 20 to 21, and then try to tap at 21 again. Because that's how rare that drop is and how long that takes, that actually becomes realistically like a good option. Which seems wild, but you invest the time over so long doing Helix every day so that you can do that and just reduce that risk even just by a little bit of losing that drop.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
which now seems like wild, right? Like, it seems like, holy shit, like I could never imagine myself doing that. But when you get to that point, you'll be happy that you've done the boss for that long and have the option to even consider that.
Well, Helix already takes like 2 seconds, so it's just gonna get faster and faster. It's like 1 moment of your day just to make sure you back step up. I don't actually have the huge problem with Helix, so
it's just about consistently keeping on doing it, because then you have just such a way better position later on.
Right, and then once you're getting close to that, actually buying the backups because you can only buy 1 a week.
Yeah, I'm still messaging Jade every now and then. She's also put it up towards the team just to get rid, at least for heroic servers, to get rid of the max, because of course for interactive servers it made sense when they did the transfer, right? Otherwise the market would get flooded with clean Superior, and the value would like start fluctuating all over the place. But for heroic, since it's untradeable, it doesn't make any sense, because now people are like, do you stock up on extra and then potentially lose upgrades later, or do you not stock up on extra, and then if you get unlucky you just can't make any upgrade and you're just stuck settling for a lower upgrade? Like, it's just a shitty situation all around. It's not about it just wanting more, it's just structurally it's holding you back with like a technicality that shouldn't be there. So
well, yeah, when we build around once every few month events to do all these upgrades, if you didn't prepare for months with backups, or if you get really lucky, you've now spent months of progress for something you don't need anymore.
Yeah. There's no trade-in policy with the with the NPC, so you can't you're just stuck like to keep your inventory forever. And once you hit 22, they're hundreds of coins that represent like months of, or weeks to months of running Helix that are just like then gathering dust. Yeah, it's not a good thing.
So I'm nearing, I think in a couple more days I'll have enough to buy either Superior Ring or Superior Pendant. Because I'm just running like a Mechanator as my second damage pendant, should I pick up that Superior and then just get it to where it's decent for contributing? Or like, well, how do you think that is the best way to spend those coins up front without intention of having...
Yeah, I mean, there's some you can spend a bunch of money, but the pieces, there's some set bonus effect, right, to the 3 set, but it's minimal. I wouldn't really worry about switching into the superior pieces yet, unless you have all 4.
Okay.
So so you got both as drop, but you've only been able to buy. You haven't been able to buy piece yet. Is that the situation?
Yeah, I have a couple.
Earring and
I
belt,
have
right?
3 earrings and a belt, and then a bunch of reinforced. But no, I don't have the coins to have actually bought the ring or the pendant yet.
Okay. Well, that's like dream scenario, because what can also happen is that you have bought the 2 pieces you need to buy with coins, and you haven't gotten the other 2 drops yet, and you have to keep killing to even get your first 4 set. So at least that's not going to happen to you. That's a good thing. But like whether you buy the pendant or the ring in this situation doesn't make that much of a difference, because like even up to 17 star, the pieces are not that good. They're just all set bonus early on. They only get good once you get like 20, 21, like you get the Starforce up. So I wouldn't worry about them too much, and I would invest mostly in your current pieces to get the drop and the Meso up, and if they hit some strength along with that, then that's great. But you can keep the pendant, honestly, like, you can not buy it, you can keep the pendant in your inventory, because you're not at the stage yet, I would say, where you can just like spend for those small, more like sideways upgrades at this point. I think it's better to just like specifically save for like big Starforce gains, that kind of stuff. Or be ready once you start knowing that you can buy the second piece as well. Then start saving up so that you can get both of them up to like, 12 to 15% unique, and both to 17 star, like immediately when you get them, so that you can switch into them without losing damage, and you can get that big gain from the set bonus.
Gotcha. Right. Okay. Yeah, so I think I landed the superior belt or something. It's been a long time since I made this character, but like on my first Helix kill or something stupid lucky, and so I ended up just using it because I hadn't gotten the the pink bean belt or the enraged Sakum belt or whatever it is. So I've already broken the 9 set for boss accessories. Like I'd have to reinvest to get back into a 9 set for boss accessories, and so that's where I was kind of looking at it, is because I'd either have to reinvest in a belt to get back to 9 set, or
no. Well, belt is a little bit of an exception there, because the belt for superior just has way more base stats than everything else around that level. So belt probably makes sense to even just break the set 4 just for that. But the other pieces you're wearing are all kind of just like still synergizing off of, and they're giving you utility in the drop and the Meso, right? So I don't think you want to go too heavily into trying to separate already drop and Meso from damage set now, until you have the full switch of what was in the past and now still is partially, but like full superior plus maybe some Sweetwater pieces, and then completely replace basically all of the boss accessory stuff, kind of like in one fell swoop. But now it's a little bit more organic. It goes a little bit into Daybreak as well. If you get like Twilight Mark or a Daybreak Pendant a little earlier, or if you get a Slime Ring, and you don't go as much into Sweetwater anymore, because the Black Bead Mark is way more reasonable to get, and transposing isn't as good anymore. So that kind of frees up space for alternative paths that are, you could just do whatever as a path of least resistance instead.
Right. Okay.
Cup at 70.
Yeah, I think. I mean, I'm just trying to take some notes so I can remember everything.
For sure.
As far as like a direct path of how I want to spend money, it's get 2 more Meso lines first.
Yeah, get a 5-4 set and get a 0-9 set. Build those 2 if you can.
Right, and I'll just spend all of my money on Cube Sale today.
Yeah, if you need to. I mean, don't set that up as a requirement, but
no, be willing to spend up to all of the money.
Yeah, just know that it's worth it. Yeah.
The 5-4 and the 0-9.
0-9, yeah. And then you probably want to also save for the heart, right? For the fairy heart.
Yes, I will need the fairy heart, and I think I get that. Even if I spent everything, I could get it next next boss
Yeah,
reset.
4 bill feels very intimidating to people, but even if you just do Ursus and Maple Tour and nothing else, that's 4 weeks of saving just that Meso, and then you can buy it. So that's doing 0 training or 0 bossing. So it's just, a lot of people are wondering, like, is the Fairy Heart worth it? The answer is just, if you're wondering that, it's always yes. Because by the next time one comes around, your account will have moved so far that you will regret not having gotten it. Always.
Right.
If you're playing like more than 15 minutes a day, kind of thing.
Right. Yeah. Well, and again, I get around 4 builds just for if I did all of the bosses I'm capable of doing, I get about that in a week. So
yeah, if you cluster this together, you get it in 2-3 days, right?
Right. So yeah. But cube sales not every week, so I'm gonna spend everything I can. So.
Yeah, you have until when is it, like, and June 12th, and then the Sunday after that, right? So you have until like the 15th or something, 16th. So yeah, it's still more than a month to make that money, so you'd be fine.
Okay, so I think the accessories, and then when's our next 5, 10, 15? That's in a few weeks as well, June 12th or something.
It's the last, so June 10th, I think. No,
10th.
9th, I think, is a Sunday, right?
No,
it's like the last
9.
5, 10, 15 of 9. It's the last 5, 10, 15 is the last Sunday of this event, but most likely we're gonna have a shining in the summer, right? In Dreamer update. Again, no guarantee, but that's most likely to happen, which is like plus 30% off at the same time as well. So if you're planning to make big upgrades and make huge gains, you might as well just wait an extra 3 to 4 weeks and make even bigger gains, right? That's
right.
That's what I'm gonna do.
It's just the balance of I'd like to be doing slightly harder content than I'm doing right now, so that's gonna take a little bit of investment, hopefully in the immediate, versus waiting. Like, what if I'm 5 to 8 million combat power from being able to reasonably get into a party? Like, is there somewhere specifically I'm not going to be wasting investment, to try and get that little bit so I'm contributing? Or just, is levels the way to go? Should I just grind out dailies and ignore gear completely until I'm 265, 267, whatever?
Well, yeah, I mean, the boring answer, it's always going to be a little bit of everything, right? A little bit of everything working together. I can look at the... Let me see, I didn't see anything that was like, oh, this is like horrible, this needs to improve the most by far. Though you are very, very heavily attack percent centric in your WSE, so like the set bonus for Hallex is going to help you quite a bit with that, to like round out the WSC more, right? So that'll be a nice boost for you. Don't think cooldown reduction does anything for you on the hat. Gloves. You could see if you can go for gloves with a crit damage plus a line of stat, because that's reasonably cheap for like a whole free extra line of stat compared to what you have now. That's maybe one more thing to look into if you have money left. Because, I mean, I could double check how much that is, but I feel like that's relatively cheap, like cheaper than a line extra on anything else. Let's see, glove. You used the calculators before, right?
Yeah, I've used the cost calculators.
Yeah.
And then
because it doesn't say, but you're like full Abso, right? Oh yeah, you're Abso, yeah.
I have, Abso and CRA for all of my gear, non-accessories.
Yeah, it says one line crit damage, one line stat on average is like 260 to 400 mils, like 30 cubes. So I feel like that's that'd be
nice.
Like an extra line of stat, right? Yeah, so that's pretty free.
Yeah, I hit crit and I just like didn't want to mess with it because I thought it was like billions, because I didn't.
Well, for a lot of people, the next step is 2 lines of crit damage, but a line of crit plus a line of stat is like a very cheap step in between there. That's right. If everything else is still like epic or unique, bringing that stuff up makes more sense. But since your stuff is all already legendary and 2 lines useful as well, then that becomes a more reasonable step a lot earlier on. So that's where you'll be at right after the drop rate stuff. Yeah, some people might say tackle the weapon here to at least get like 23% attack, or to get like some weird like attack plus boss plus IED kind of like combo, because your mobbing is probably not going to be struggling, and since you're mostly going into Starforce, your mobbing is going to keep up and your bossing will get the most help from that. But I don't think financially that's the call for you. I think just saving, big saving, maybe yeah, using the 5, 10, 15 if you need to get some quick gains, maybe get the CRA to 19, and then use the Shining to like get 21 and get the other 19s and maybe get some fodder up. That seems like that would probably be like optionally the play for you.
Gotcha. And I think that if I have save as much as possible for Shining later, but if I can get a little bit out of 5, 10, 15, a couple pieces of CRA to 19, you said.
Yeah, you could do that, but it would depend on your patience and depend on how close you are to a milestone where you could get that extra benefit. Because if you can get like 3 or 4 extra weeks of being able to do 2 bosses that have potential to drop an armor box, well, now you have like 5 or 6 extra chances for an armor box. You know, that is value too. So there is such a thing as sitting on your money for too long as well. Just to, because then if you're like, oh, but if I wait even longer, then I can make an even bigger upgrade. And if you wait even longer, and then the whole game is like passing you by as you're waiting for the game to start, kind of thing, right? So
at this point, I'm not killing any bosses. I mean, except for Helix, I'm not really killing any bosses that drop meaningful stuff. It's just fodder items for me, like Kana treasures and things like that. So that the faster I can get into bosses that actually drop stuff that matters,
yeah,
I think is always going to be worth it. And then just stalling right there.
Yeah, I think at 265 as well, like 4 levels, getting that extra Grandest Alien, that's a nice extra little daily boost for EXP. And I think in general, that'll set you up for not looking like you just like finished your hyper burn, right? Because people are at 260 or 261, they could just look like they were hyper burned and then kind of abandoned. But if you're going more into like the mid 260s and towards 270, it looks like you're at least like it's your main and you're kind of like playing the game. So that can also have a different vibe in terms of like joining parties and finding other people to play with. I think that's like a mental aspect there as well. Yeah, because easy lucid, easy will, even if you kill those, they don't drop any. You have the useful droplets, you have to do at least normal lucid.
Right. So I've been getting into normal just to make sure that I'm getting the droplets from lucid.
Yeah. Slowly as it is, at least you're progressing towards arcane. Yeah.
Well, and now the other thing is the other droplets only really are coming from event shops because I'm not training in those areas.
You can buy those with Meso now if you need to, right? As a fallback.
Okay.
Yeah. There's a NPC where you just buy them, but they're like 50 mil a pop, which doesn't seem too expensive, but you need like 100 for a piece, so it's 5.4 bill just to buy an armor if you have the boss drops. So it is a good idea to buy whatever you can from a event shop, but basically see them as like 50 millipop value essentially, and then paste them in.
Yeah, see, I was unaware of that, just not with the times.
Yeah, so if you're missing like 10 or so, it's easy to just drop like 500 mil, boom, get your piece and move on. But people usually do that once they need like, 1 or 2 more pieces to kind of finish up the set. They try to get their weapon from a drop because, that one's double, so that one's like 10.8 bill. If you want to just buy out straight up the crystals, that's a pretty big expense for most people and not a realistic expense. But, once you start making 10 bill a week, that's just 1 week's worth of Meso to get like arguably until Liberation the best weapon that you can get on your character. So that is a worthy investment, I would say. But if you're making $2 billion a week, that's 5 weeks worth of money. Now the equation changes.
Right.
$1.6 KT. Oh, 6 KT is nice. The ping beam belts. Oh, no black beam marks backups?
No, just the one.
You could try, especially when you get your drop rate up, to like cycle normal pink bean back into your rotation, because they can drop from normal as well.
Okay.
And that can give you some extra chances for belts there, and also for maybe like a lucky cup as well. because they can also drop from normal. It's just lower chance, but once you have your drop rate built up, there's a more realistic chance. So what I did for my rotation for a while on normal, totally up to you if you want to do that or not, but would be like normal ping B, normal arc, and then I did Helix, of course, and then normal Magnus, normal Queen, normal Vellum for the souls on there. And you get a cube here and there, but it's mostly for the soul shards, so that once you get an arcane weapon, and once you get Genesis weapon, or you want to get Abso weapons on Mules, you've got more souls for whenever there's a 5x Magnificent Soul event, so you can get some Magnificence, so you can more realistically get the upgrade on the weapon that you're looking for, and not just like, oh, I got a new weapon, I have 2 souls, wow, I hit all stat and, you know, percentage crit rate, nice, now I have nothing, you know, kind of thing. But it's up to you how much of your day you want to lock into that kind of stuff. I did that on like 4 characters on my account for like 2 years, so now I have like 3 characters that are filled with Magnificent Souls, which is way too many, and it's a hoarding problem that's not yet officially diagnosed. But you can you can. There's a lot of distance between just, you know, only doing your weeklies and that. You know, there's a little bit in between that's probably a better balance of use of your time.
Yeah, I think because I'm popping, and maybe correct me if it's a bad idea, I'm popping at the 10-minute drop coupon when I'm killing Helix.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of wasted time on it, so I might as well. I mean, Helix and Arcarium I do every day, but I can add in
into that coupon
all those other ones.
Yes, exactly. That's what I did. Yeah. Well, back in the day, I didn't 100% do that because there was for a while a lot of uncertainty on whether drop rate actually affected the drop of Helix, and it was not sure for a while, so I didn't actually use it on Helix for quite a bit. But from what I've seen is that is confirmed. So yeah, I would do it that way for sure. Whatever is the longest boss. At the end, pop the coupon, and then throw all of the short bosses after it and get that value. Yep. And even maybe if you're building WOPs, right, from Threads of Fate and everything, and you have some of those, maybe even throw in one of those. I mean, that's a half hour, so that's a bit more of a commitment. But then maybe you do like your symbol dailies and Grandis after that. Maybe get an extra fragment or 2 out of that, you know, kind of thing. Kind of like optimize your rotation through the resources that you're using.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, because the extra 20 minutes or whatever is enough time to do all the 3k kills and things.
Yeah, even if it's just like 1 fragment every 2 days, it's still, you know, it adds up. If you're consistent with it, it adds up over a long period of time. Because God knows we need those fragments. It's rough out there, right?
At least we get our daily.
Yeah, that helps a lot. Korea didn't even get that, so
right.
It'll be rougher for them to build up the Hexa Matrix. They don't have drop rate from familiars, and then they don't have that daily, and I don't think they had the booster either, or for not the whole time at least. I don't think. I should double check that. I'm not sure about that part.
Booster, maybe I don't know what that is.
Urda Booster is an item you can buy in the cash shops, like $30, and it gives you. Oh, actually, I have it on here, so I can just see it. It gives you 1. What is it? It gives you 200. Oh yeah, 200 energy and 4 fragments per day, and then on the 5th day, you get a bonus where you can choose, I think, 1 or 2 energy. Which why would you ever want to do that? Because we have too much of that. Or 15 fragments. And then the cycle starts, and then the booster lasts 30 days, so you can do 5 full cycles within 1 booster. Like, it is pretty useful if you have limited time and you have some disposable income, at least like to start up in the beginning. Of course, you don't have to buy it forever, but from what I see now, like the downside is that if you do miss a single day, you lose like that last bonus reward on one of the rotations. So it immediately cuts into the value quite a bit. So it is a pretty big commitment as well to make sure that you log in every day and click it. But it's just a click. Like, it's not you have to kill 2,000 monsters or anything like that.
It's just a check-in. There's no kill requirement.
Yeah,
oh, nice.
Just go in, click it, yeah. Oh, someone said, yeah, 220 fragments for 1 month. So it's like 7 point something extra on average per day, basically.
That's not bad.
Oh yeah, and they have the High Mountain now, which is that new dungeon that also gives fragments. So that's also on the way. Yeah, it's something to consider. I mean, it's pretty steep in terms of price, but if you have some disposable income and just to get you started in the beginning, it's really good value in the beginning because those levels make a lot of difference. Just like unlocking your boost notes for some of the classes, right? Immediately 11% FD, but those unlocks are like what 75 each. That's it's a rough start, right?
Right.
In the Hexa, yeah. This one's 75. I think if we unlock this one as DA after the new Mastery Core that comes out goes to level 28 or something, then we unlock this one level 1. That's how little it does for our final damage. But yeah, I've started saving fragments now as well because of the upcoming changes in Dreamer. I don't know how much of that you've seen, but like the Soul Yana skill and the new Mastery Core coming out.
Yeah, I don't think it matters a whole lot to me. I just need
not
maybe
yet,
the
no.
new Mastery Core ready on day 1 and the Soul Yanis level 1.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, I'm just gonna keep working on. I've looked at the flowchart. It doesn't change a whole lot.
Okay, that's good. That's good. Yeah. Level 1 blast isn't that bad. I think it gets a lot better once you have -2 second cooldown on your hat, because then the uptime is every 10 seconds instead of every 12 seconds. So then the amount of damage it deals considerably changes. But because I think Executizer has like 23% HP, 2 second cooldown on his hat. Like that's probably best in slot so that you can get more blast uses of. Yeah. Sorry, not to sidetrack with the DA. Yeah, your familiars are looking good. You got large drop. Let's ignore that it's a junior boogie. No comment on that one. You got a double IED in there, so that's helping you out right now a lot, right? So you don't really feel that lack of the. Well, you have Big Legion and you have the ID fam, so you don't really feel that lack of the. The lack of the Golic set, right?
Yeah, I think it gets to like 96% fully buffed. It's pretty high with everything visible.
Mm-hmm.
Also, the junior boogie didn't come from where you thought. It came from a booster pack.
Booster pack. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I looked out completely.
I would stick to that story as well. That sounds way better.
100%.
Wait, are you a shift jumper?
That's the horror show. My palm controlling, shift pinkying.
Palm controlling, shift pinkying. Do you use like the bottom part of your?
Yeah, like the left side of my left hand.
Yeah.
To press control.
But then how do you press shift? With your pinky?
With my pinky curled under.
Do you do like? How? Wait, how's your keyboard laid out? Do you use like the side of your pinky?
I press shift with both hands though, so like it's if I'm not moving. It's mostly right hand now that I'm really thinking about it. My right hand rests over the arrow keys. Press shifts on jump. It's just the palm controller.
Oh, so so your left hand controls palm, and then your right hand, what, index finger shift?
Yep, exactly.
Oh, that is interesting. Okay. He's one of those 4 fingers on the WQER. Yeah, we got a League player on our hands.
I think actually my left pinky does nothing. It's a wasted finger.
Yeah.
Unless I'm doing weird things with it.
Well, whether you're using like the side of your hand, that's where people would use the pinky instead. But if that's more, if that fits your style better, then you just go for it, man. Fuck it. How many fingers and hands does he have? Yeah.
All of them?
All of them. He has all of them. He's like 16 fingers on one hand, 14 on the other one, and then his third hand has another 6.
I just know people get really, really upset about keybinds that don't match their own.
Well, yeah, I mean, the way I see it is people have different size and shape hands, different length fingers, different layout keyboards. So whatever you see here is not necessarily what your keyboard looks like when you're looking at. So it doesn't map on one-to-one. So it makes sense that people have very different layouts. But whatever games you played before heavily impacts what is already in your muscle memory, and it's best to just build to your muscle memory and copy that setting, the kind of vibe of the setting over to your different characters, so you can swap characters faster, as long as that's like in line with each other. It doesn't really matter where the keys are. But you see some interesting stuff for sure. Like the ASG, like H is a not very much used key because it's kind of like, is that your flash jump on I?
Yeah, it's just there because I was trying to figure out how to bunny hop, and I never learned. Because I've moved it around a bunch. It doesn't actually live on I.
Yeah, because I'm gonna say if your left hand is on palm on control and your right hand is on the keys, like I is a really tough key to reach for me if I'm trying to do that.
No,
but maybe you have a smaller keyboard, yeah.
I think they have to be assigned to be on your alt combos or something. Or no, so I could look at the cooldown for
Gotcha.
The wisdom. So I don't actually ever press O. It's alt 1 to do that, but it's just to see cooldowns. So.
Yeah. See cooldown. Gotcha.
But no, I don't press the flash jump on I.
Yeah.
That would require the 16 fingers and 4 hands.
Yeah, I can kind of have my palm on control and my index finger on I, but then nothing else. Is like my thumb is just like free flowing, like an inch under the keyboard, and my pinky is on F2 or something. But like, yeah, that's not.
You rotate your entire keyboard 90 degrees.
Yeah.
And play it that way.
You have those like FPS gamers who have like their keyboard like at a 72-degree angle, and then their nose touching their screen, kind of set up. So you're like, okay, this is just a whole other level of and they use a mouse where they use like have it upside down, and they just thumb track over the laser point or something because it's more. Yeah, but people do some crazy shit.
It's actually the only way to effectively mob on Shade is to play that way. Yeah.
You gotta make it interesting, right? Other than just like spamming that green skill over and over that sometimes gets a little bigger. Gotta make it a little bit exciting.
Yeah, the difference between a lazy rotation and a tryhard is bounds for Shade.
Oh, I imagine, yeah. Lazy rotation is just jump attack, I guess, right?
Right. Once we get Soul Yanas, that's all of my rotations will be that way.
Yeah. You ever see Matt Train, Misusing TV?
Which, on his art?
Yeah.
He didn't look that lazy when I was watching it.
But the map he's on now,
yeah,
in Carcion, he just uses his basic spell drive and just uses the teleporter map. So it's just like attack up, attack up, attack up, attack up, attack up, attack up. And that's just it.
Sounds like a dream.
Or it's like flash jump. It's like flash jump, attack, and then like teleport attack, teleport attack, teleport attack, flash jump attack, flash jump attack, flash jump attack, teleport attack, teleport. And that's just it. Just with the basic, like no weaving of buffs, no nothing. It's just that. But honestly, if that's like close to the best race you can get, fuck it, dude. Like you gotta get to 290 somehow. So as a streamer, it's pretty cool because you could actually read the chat and engage and not have to worry about your rates. That's always a good time for me.
That's what drew me into Corsair at first, but now everyone's going to be a summon class.
Yeah.
And Corsair dramatically fell off for me, and so I just went back to the Shade because I liked it way more.
Yeah, and that's good. You're just picking whatever you're feeling more like playing. You're committing it for a pretty long time, so it's good to do it in something that you feel like has a better future. But Corsair will still be a very strong boss meal, right? Bring in a lot of money. You can still benefit from
do all
investment.
the same bosses. At this moment, they do all the same bosses. So.
Yep, nice. Okay,
well, I think
double check. Yeah. Yeah, you're talking about C10A solos and stuff. I mean, as long as you keep track of like the dailies grid, just like one at a time, just try the next one. If you're just wondering if you can do something, just give it a try. And if you're just like, okay, this is impossible, you can check a video or wait for a next big upgrade and then give it another go. Keep your options open for the ring boxes, because that's one of the cooler things about doing those higher level bosses. You can start seeing some of those, and those can be really big jumps in damage without really directly investing any money into it. So those are the ones you want to look out for.
Okay. And what I remember back when carries were a thing, like the general vibe in this community was carries are bad unless you can actually do it on your main, right? Then trading was good. What's the thought on red dotting black mage? Like,
Yeah, I feel like that's in the same position for me personally. Like, I definitely try to do that on some characters, but I'm like exchanging with other people or keeping the option open to bring some of their people. I think it's more acceptable for sure for like your first run or 2 or even 3 to be like red or blue, or barely blue dotting, just because it's an 8-month fucking process and they still haven't reduced that duration. Yeah, so I think that would be fine. But I will also say, if you feel like you have boomer hands and like normal Lucid is giving you trouble, Black Mage is going to be tricky.
Practice for months just to not die out.
Yeah. Because that's the other thing I didn't really touch on, but like the whole thing about learning the boss is kind of like as you go one at a time, moving on to the next one, is because it sets you into that position of being able to discern certain patterns very quickly and kind of like already subconsciously be able to deal with them, so you can focus more on the hard patterns and prioritize what's dangerous a lot faster with every subsequent boss. So if you go through it more organically, you will get to that point where you feel like you're not a burden and you feel more in control of the boss fight a lot faster. And a lot of people mistake it for like, oh, you just want people to suffer like you did in the beginning. It has nothing to do with that. It has to do with getting value and just like satisfaction out of your progress and out of your time that you're spending in the game, instead of just feeling like you're just kind of going with the flow and hoping that you don't die to some random shit that you don't even know is coming, right? So once you have a boss that has 20 patterns, but 5 or 6 of them you've already seen and you can already deal with, now you're basically just dealing with a boss that has 14 patterns, which is exponentially easier to do than just 20 that you have never seen before, right? That's why I don't like carries on your first playthrough, because people just will have way longer time learning and discerning what is dangerous, what is not, what do I prioritize, what can I ignore, kind of thing.
Right. Yeah, makes total sense.
Especially for Black Mage, because essentially he gave some of his power to his commanders, right? So all of the commanders have skills that are kind of like weaker versions of what he has, but he can use them all at the same time. So you're like, oh, you got the lasers. Oh, but that's basically just Lucid's laser pattern. So if you've already learned how to deal with that, and like how big those are and like where they come from and the angles and everything, that gives you a much easier time to follow. Oh, there's like stuff falling from the sky. Well, I played already like 6 bosses with stuff falling from the sky, so I know how to deal with that. I can see patterns more clearly. I can deal with that much faster. So that just takes the learning curve like way down.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I was like, wasn't saying I'm gonna like go try and jump into that. I was just curious what the general sentiment was.
Yeah, usually like late 260s or so, people start getting their first run or 2 in, and then by the time they get to like, you know, early to mid 270s, by run 2 or 3, you start like carrying your own weight more, and then yeah, it depends on if you can find a party where you can just tag along, or if there's a party where, you know, you're a little bit more there as a support. And that's the other thing as well, is that if you're a bit more of a support, it's way more acceptable to either be red in bosses like that or like be blue for a long time, just because the whole system of checking how much damage you're dealing is just set up in such a dumb way that even if you are red, you could be actually dealing more damage or bringing more damage to the party than the person who's doing the biggest percentage according to the calculator. So it's just not really a fair system of gauging how much you're actually contributing. So what is really a carry and what is really not a carry is up for debate there.
Gotcha.
Okay. Any last thing you want to ask about? Any call-outs you want to do?
Call-outs? No.
I guess Lucid and Will starting party people if you're going to start up.
Oh, yeah.
Hit up
I thought
Pleasant.
you meant like shout-outs while I'm famous for in the YouTube for a minute.
Like to thank my mom, you know.
No, definitely if people are around that want to start trying practicing hard stuff. Yeah. Hard Lucid will.
What's your name on Twitch again? Is it just Pleasant?
Pleasant.
Yeah. Alright, so if you Pleasant around in chat, you want to do Lucid and Will, you're starting up there, hit them up. And yeah, we'll see you around in Guild and everything. And yeah, you can apply to Raindor on some characters if you want some G skills. And then maybe we can move you up to Scar Mules when we have room for your more like active boss mules.
Sounds good, man. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Good luck with everything, and hope you don't have to spend all your money today on getting the drop and everything. But yeah, just know it's a worthwhile investment, and best of luck with it. And I'll see you around.
See ya.
All right, bye-bye. Cool. All right. So if you're in a similar situation, there is a cube sale today, so take advantage of that. But the cube sale is also tomorrow and goes into reset plus 8 minus a minute on Monday. So you don't have to rush it immediately. Make sure you make a good decision. Make sure you look at all the possibilities. Look at the Starforcing events possible. Look at the cube sale possible. Where are you going to spend your money? How quickly you're going to make your money back. Try to make a general assessment there. And should be Gucci. All right, so if you're in a simple position, hopefully this was helpful for you. If you were not, maybe you picked up 1 or 2 things that either you forgot or that give you some perspective on a boss mule or some other character. If not, check out one of these other videos that should be popping up on the screen. If you want one of these sessions as well, check out the description of the video or check out !coaching in the Twitch chat over there on the left side. And if you watch my stream over at twitch.tv/Scardor, you can be there live for these sessions. And you can also just be there whenever I'm live, which is every day for way too long, and ask any question about the game or just chill or just hang or Netflix or whatever you want to do. Other ways of getting these sessions, so either you can do it for a donation and you buy my time. I also do these privately if you don't want to do these publicly in front of the stream, and then they go on YouTube privately, so only you can watch them. A lot of people also do that. I do quite a bit of those, so if there's a few weeks where you don't see any of these sessions uploaded, it's probably because I mostly had private sessions that week, and then obviously I don't share them because of the privacy of the people requesting them. You can also request these with channel points if you watch my stream and you're subscribed over on Twitch. Then you get channel points all the time, and you can get these sessions at a very, very highly discounted rate, being free and just the price of the subscription, basically. Or you could also leave a comment on this video saying that you would like to win one of these sessions, and you could be one of 2 lucky people. That's 2 lucky people that get drawn every month and that get a free session with me, and I'll reach out to you. Please include your Discord name because that's where I will be communicating through, and then I'll reach out to you if you won. So good luck on that. Thanks for watching the video. See you on the next one or live over at Twitch. Peace.